packets, there was the minutes of the last meeting. I'm sure that you have had time to look it over, so what is your pleasure as to their acceptance or denial?
Make the motion and accept.
A motion to accept
Second.
and a second. Any discussion, addition, or changes to those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of acceptance as written, please signify by raised hand. Second item in your package was the second reading and adoption of the ordinance reference to the R2 zoning for Briarwood. There again, this is something that was in your packet, and I'm sure that you're familiar with it, and you discussed it at the last meeting. What is your pleasure as to its acceptance? Now, the motion will be reading that you're accepting the second reading and the adoption. Before I can go there, Donna's reminding me I forgot a line here. I was not here last week, so the rest of the council, if my understanding, were asked if they had any affiliation with or anything that would keep them from acting totally independently and no affiliation with the developers. I do not have anything that would be in conflict of it, contrary to what I might have been accused of, but I have not. Therefore, I'm making that disclaimer. Back to the motion itself. Motion should be for the adoption of the second reading and the change of zoning. Do I hear a so move?
So moved.
So moved.
And second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by raised hand. Unanimous. Second reading on adoption of the part of the subdivision, excuse me, that would be the TNC. Same that goes there, it will be for both the acceptance of the second reading and for the adoption of the ordinance. Do I hear a so moved?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of passing, please signify by raised hand. In your package, you would find the millage rate This is reference to the millage rate for the city taxes. Some of you might be interested in knowing that it is going down from 2.72 to 2.65. Believe me, it is a complicated process when we go to the county tax assessor's office and he tries to explain to us how that happened. The only way we could have kept the exact amount of income per house would have been to raise the millage rate because the county, in essence, devalued or cut down the value of the homes. So it is before you now that we accept or decline the new millage rate at 2.65. You have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the new millage rate.
Second.
Millage in a second. Any further discussion or questions?
I do. I've asked more questions about this, and I can't get the right answer. I can't get the answer that adds up in my simple math. But I've read a lot. I've gone online and I've looked at the states, what they've done, the reason that they suggested to Coweta County to do this, and what I think has happened is that the reassessment of property values has gone up, and for us to keep the tax the same, our millage rate has gone down. Now, if that's not true, I don't know. You said it kind of backwards from that, and I don't know which one's exactly right, but I did see an article this weekend about Newton was keeping their millage rate up, so they were gonna have more tax base. They decided not to follow suit like the rest of us in the county did.
Mm-hmm.
The only way I know to explain it is that our millage rate has gone down at the request of a state governing authority. Is that not correct?
I don't know, when I asked Tommy Farrell to explain it to me, basically the explanation I gave was as close as I can tell you what he said, but you might have something.
Well, I got my tax bill last week. I think most everybody did. And it's almost exactly what it was last year. Dollar amount. And I think my property valuation went up. So I concluded from that the millage rate went down to keep it similar. And that's why we have dropped our millage rate, was to not present an undue burden on our citizens.
That makes a lot more sense than what I thought his explanation was.
I don't know that's right. That's just me trying to figure out the math.
Yeah. At any rate, we are reducing it as per their request, really, or guidance, let's say.
Right.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Oh, I'm sorry.
Question. I understand, what Mr. Rhodes said, I understand precisely, and I guess that's sort of good. However, where does it put the town in regards to operating funds if versus the value of the house? What if the value of the property here has gone, within the city limits, has gone down, irrespective of what's happening around us? Would we not suddenly possibly have less revenue coming into the town if you're lowered the millage rate and property values are going down? Should this be checked with the county and get some kind of thing for what's happened within the city limits of Sharpsburg? Because we can end up with lowering the millage rate. What if values across the board have dropped? Mine have dropped a bit. And so we could end up having, I don't mind paying less taxes, but then we're faced with the town remaining financially viable.
Well, the reason the tax was put in the first place was simply to cover the cost of the garbage pickup, so we can offer that. Our garbage service, we negotiated a fantastic contract with them, much better than we had, so the garbage rate went down, so it's not hurting us that bad.
What about salaries for Councilman Donna primarily, that type of thing? Are we covered on all of that with operating revenues from the tax base we have now?
Yes. Any other comments, Council? Hearing none, all in favor of acceptance, please signify by raised hand. On your agenda, you have a request for a street light on Cole Street, and we have a second request for the one that we discussed earlier on Highway 16. Let's discuss them in that order. Cole Street, I'll ask for comments from council about yes or no as to whether or not we do that. Costs would be in the.
Well, that was a request by one of my relatives, so I'm going to abstain from
Right, okay. The cost of that would probably be somewhere, of course, we hadn't got a rate, but it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 or thereabouts, $425 or something like that.
You know me, I'm for street lights. I think it's safer for the community.
Is that a motion?
You would like to put that in form of motion?
I make a motion to accept.
Okay, second.
I second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion on the street light on Cole Street? Hearing none, all in favor of this, please signify by raised hand. One abstention. And Highway 16 and Main Street. Now, we had this come up a while back, and the cost was pretty high because we were having to put in 2 poles and run from one pole to the other to get across the railroad track. This figure comes to $655.76 to put in that light down there. Again, if somebody would like to put a motion in for or against, and then we can go into a discussion if we have a second.
Make a motion to accept.
Motion to accept, is there a second?
I second.
Motion is a second. Any discussion on that one? Any questions or whatever?
One of the reasons that I had a problem with that one was because the initial cost was so much, and the monthly cost would be so much with, is that Georgia Power or is that EMC?
That's
Which
Georgia
one is
Power.
it? That's Georgia Power. I had suggested, and I think we've looked at some of these lighting contractors that are doing our park to put an LED light there. It might cost the same or a little more initially, but monthly would be a lot cheaper. And I don't know if I think we should include bids on it when it was, what did you say, $655?
$655.76.
And then how much a month? It was,
What does it figure out per, you know, right offhand?
it was a lot. I remember
Now,
us discussing it.
what we were discussing was the park.
You and I had discussed the monthly price of the light too,
Right.
down there, and it was,
The monthly charge, if they put in the poles for 6 lights, was $276 and something per month. These are probably in the neighborhood of $20.
It seems like I remember, I mean, that's definitely an intersection that needs to be lit up because it is it's an entrance to Main Street and Highway 16. But it seems like I remember even asking, I know there was a problem with the railroad and something like that, but putting the little orange bullets down that lined on the road, whatever you want to call them, that actually goes in, so it's a reflector. The little bumpy things that, and I didn't know if that was an option too.
actually on the pavement.
Yeah.
And you're talking about over on Main
Because
Street,
at that
on our
time, we
side.
had talked about not doing the street light, and I said possibly we could do the little orange bullets, so at least you could see the side of the road, because it's not even marked, like, you can't really even see the white lines.
Right, that would be a possibility in addition to the light, yeah.
Or some type of reflector.
Yeah. That we can look into, yes, Mr.
Which side of the road is
With
the
the
light
light?
going on?
The lights will go, but
Try
on
to
the,
reflect it first and see.
Both. Some of us can't see that at night.
the street
I don't
light
go out at
will
night, so that's
go
why.
between the railroad and 16,
Okay.
closer to the railroad, but so that we don't get, you can't have glare on Highway 16. People come around that curve and look directly into the light. But he promised me that it will be focused straight down on that intersection and not interfere with the traffic. And of course, I'm sure they deal with DOT day in and day out, so.
Is that gonna be in our right of way or the railroad?
Believe it or not, right there you have a lap over, you got the railroad coming all the way up to the DOT, so it's all, none of it's ours, it's all right away from the railroad or the DOT. Any further discussion on that light?
May I make a comment to some of the ones suggested?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, ma'am, go ahead, Mike.
Let him go ahead.
Yes, David.
It's been a few years, but I thought, I hear, you're looking at $1,000, $1,100 or something like this to both those lines. But I thought that prior to this, when we started putting street lights in the city 25 plus years ago, that Georgia Power was supplying that outright, and there was no cost to the city, and just a little bit was added on to everybody's electric bill that lived in the city limits.
No.
Because I look at my bill now, and it has something for residential lighting, and it's on my bill like $5.83 a month or something.
You must have a light in your yard then.
No, no, I don't.
You might only question it because we get a separate bill here every month for the street light. And,
But Georgia Power was adding that onto the residents' bills for a while, and I've got it on mine. It says, community resident, or community residential supplement or something like that.
well, let's look into it because you're not supposed to be billed for city street lights. They're being billed.
I don't have any lights at all, I got the church across the street, and that's not mine.
Bring your bill down, please, and let's look into it because you shouldn't be billed for a street light. And I will say that Georgia Power has made us aware that in the near future, they will start replacing the existing bulbs with LED systems, but it might take several years to do all of them. They're gonna do it on a one-by-one basis.
Now, ma'am, I'm the one that made that request, and I don't know how many of you all ride down that at night, but coming back at night, coming from Newnan now, don't come the other way ever, you've got the railroad you're dealing with, you've got a curve in the highway there you're dealing with, and it's pitch black and you cannot see. The only way you can see if you want to find that street to turn in is bright lights, which if you turn on bright lights and somebody's coming, you blind them. That's extremely dangerous intersection, and I understand the cost, but, I mean, somebody's going to kill there, turning in there at night now. I don't think I'm the only one that's affected by that. One other question. The 600 of service charge, the monthly rate came up about this one. It did not come up about the Cold Street one. Would they not be a monthly charge on that one too? Well, why wasn't that brought up?
Be a city street light.
Huh?
It would become a city street.
But I mean, that, Keith brought that up as a reason to kind of not like this one as much, but this one went through without even bringing up the charge. So they're not being treated equally.
We had already talked about it. That's what I said. We had talked, when we get something like that, you have to look at the initial cost and then the, the monthly, and I had already spoken about that to the mayor. I thought I did in the meeting, maybe I didn't, but, we already knew about the monthly charges.
So the monthly cost is going to be more for the one at 16 in Maine than it would be for the Cold Street one?
No, we didn't say that.
Well, that's what I kind of understood.
No, ma'am. What was prompted the difference in the cost is if we go and we put in the light.
Oh, I understand about that railroad.
The LED system, then that would be a different cost from the street light. Also, if we let Georgia Power put in the LED, that is going to be a higher cost of installation than this.
Yeah, I understood all that, but that's not, the service, monthly service came up.
Be the same as any other, just like the one we just put over on Sunset here a while back, be the same charge.
Would LEDs use less, and the monthly charge that be less because you use electricity, or can you individually meter it, or what, how does that figure?
The way we're,
Because the LED, I thought was a great idea.
the way we're doing in the park, what we're looking at in the park and what I'm asking for bids on is Georgia Power, if they do it, they'll charge us like $7,000 if they put them in, but that will, if they put them in, the rate is going to be double. But if we put them in, we pay $12,000 to have them installed, but our cost per month drops to $175. Well, yeah, the point you're making is the LEDs are cheaper to operate by 10 times.
Right.
So why is it costing, they're gonna get their money up front rather than every month? So that's what the difference is. We're gonna go ahead and our bids are going out, if we put the lights in, we contract to put them in, and we meter those, so all we have to pay for is the 10, 15 bucks a
So it's a
month
substantial savings.
bill. Over the years, it will pay for itself many times over if we go ahead and do it ourselves.
And the life expectancy is 20, 30, 40 years for those bulbs.
No maintenance. Yes, sir.
Mr. Barron, I'm sorry, as an outsider, I'd like to back up the orange reflector idea that DOT will be installing them with the new roundabout, and lanes leading to it and lanes leading around it. I think we should just put in writing a request to do that intersection, which is in their right-of-way at the time that they do the roundabout. I don't think they would charge you.
Good
I'm
suggestion.
not sure, but they're gonna be doing all that stuff, and that's really gonna help seeing from a driver's perspective, the edge of the road.
Good suggestion, thank you. Back to the motion on the floor.
All in favor?
All in favor? Okay, passes unanimous. Work session discussion. Last week I was not here, and I know that y'all discussed it. I'm sorry, David, I'd like to miss you again, son. Mr. Mullins, you're on the agenda. Have the floor.
I'm just gonna sit and get on. Basically, after I moved away from Charlesburg about 10, 12 years ago, we'd set it up where we used federal block grant money, I think, to do the downtown improvement.
T grant.
Hmm?
T grant.
Yes, that. So downtown streets and sidewalks are nice and got much further than expected with lamp posts and everything like that. But it's, I'm wondering if it's possible to extend it beyond buildings. We've got a lot of them that are just not benefiting, they're just vacant. And then at the same time, there are a lot of us households, is there any plans or consideration of extending it down Turrentine, particularly down toward my house and property? Is there any way to do that or find additional funds to expand upon that and also expand Main Street all the way, the sidewalk types, all the way to 54? I know that's a fairly big expense, but has that ever been considered?
In fact, not only was it considered, it was actually drawn up in the original proposals as Phase A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
And so they did Phase A, but since that has been done, funds have tightened up to the point that it's difficult to do. Now, the fact that it's difficult is not going to keep us making an application for it, and we can choose one or two of those. If we choose one of them, it will be cut back in half, because they're not going to do phases B, C, and D all at the same time, of course.
Sure.
Yeah, but yes, it's not only been considered, it is drawn up on the plats.
But no time frame or anything? Because we did the park, and I know that comes out of spots when it's dedicated by law to specific uses, and this is not exactly parkland, but it is public sidewalks, which almost there. And if we could extend, especially down Main Street to Highway 54 and then down 54, it would help property values, most certainly mine, but it would also add to the city rather than just terminating it there in front of the whole general store.
Right. And
The T grant has been discontinued
As-
for a while, lack of funding. I think they've had it once or twice since we've done this project, and we started this project in 2004.
Mhm.
And they've only had a couple since then. Not saying that there's not other funding out there, but that was the best one for sidewalks and whatnot.
now you mentioned SPOS funds. When the next SPOS comes up at the 10-year mark, you can designate at that time where you want that money to go. But what you have to try to do is be as non-committal with that money as you can so that you can move it around a little bit, because your needs change. But yes, we can designate streets and roads and bridges as part of the SPOS fund. Or we can designate so much, 50%, 20%, 10% from Parks and Rec. So when the next SPOS comes up, we can make those designations.
Well, my thought is it would be nice if walks could be extended down to Church Street, of course,
Yes.
but also, most noticeably, down Main Street. That is Garlington's house, Mr. Bridges' property, to 54, then that would be a good entrance for Main Street, and Main Street development. But I just noticed it was sort of missing. What we've got is very nice, but it's not really benefiting anybody.
Obviously, in the first T grant, they went as far as the dollar would carry.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I think it was like $400,000 or $500,000 or something spent in its entirety for over the years.
Right.
Okay, and it's, well, that's just my question, it was just continuation and seeing if we could do anything to improve property values, because my concern is that, when I look at the property values, I equated it with talking to some real estate people recently, that Sharpsburg is becoming the hole in the donut. And the hole in the donut, the property values decline, but all around us are going up. So with Briarwood Commons and that will help. It's still somewhat part of the donut. Yet here in ground zero, we're in the hole, literally and figuratively and financially.
Well, obviously, the improvement of this building and the building of the park hopefully will start something happening beyond that, yeah.
Yeah. So that's my concern. What, and if that was on the plans to help improve property values, quality of life issues, that type of thing. Because we've had some new people, a couple of new people moved in the last 2 or 3 years, me back in town since a year ago. So that was my thinking. I'm just sort of catching up.
Okay, thank you.
Let me add to that too, there are a lot of walkers now that they didn't used to be passing by my front house. I used to, when I first moved in, not a soul ever walked by. And now there's mostly younger people, I'd say 15 to 18 to 21 that walk by. They're pretty steady basis, actually. They're polite. They don't come, they don't intrude or anything, but they do walk down that street.
Good, good.
They're my age or older, the ones I was saying.
Have wheelchairs roll right down the street, don't
No, I just stagger.
they? All right, thank you, David. Next thing on the agenda is a work session discussion. I think that y'all had a little bit of the discussion, or a lot of it last week. I'm sorry I missed that, so I would like to re-enter it and bring it back up again. As to whether or not to have the work session before every meeting or on an as-needed basis.
I'll make a motion that we continue as we always have on an as-needed basis. The work session, I noticed last week that there was, Ms. Davenport voted no on things that she didn't understand, and maybe it's because she doesn't come to town hall. I come to town hall and ask questions, I make phone calls, I get out and talk to people. I don't think coming before each meeting is gonna catch us up any more than we already caught up. It's up to Celene to come and get this information and to check on things. I don't know if it's got anything to do with the politics of it all, with her running for mayor and wanting to sound more involved. I don't know what the thing is, but I don't think that we all need to try and come before each session to make it appear that the things that we talk about all week long. So I make a motion, we come on an as-needed basis.
All right, after all that, the motion is that we do it on an as-needed basis. Is there a second to that motion?
How is the as needed, how will that be?
I should have called it before, but I need a second to the motion before we can go any further
I'm
discussion.
sorry, I discussed it before.
That's all right, that's all right, I didn't stop you and you went, that's fine. But I do need a second, and then we can discuss it, then you can vote no or yes, either way at the voting plate. Are you seconding the motion?
No, I asked my question.
Okay. All right, then if there is no second, then it dies for lack of a second. So was it last week? I didn't see in the minutes where it was made as a distinct motion. Is that correct, clerk?
Yes.
There was no motion then. All right, then is there a motion that we have a work session before every meeting?
I'll make a motion
There's a motion that we do have
that we do.
a work session before every meeting? Okay, there's a second. There's a motion. Is there a second? That's a dilemma. If we don't have a second on that motion, we're right back where we started in the beginning. So maybe we can discuss it, discuss it later, discuss it among ourselves, and come up with a solution. I like work sessions. I'll be the first to tell you, I like work sessions when they're needed, and we will be having more of them, because we got a lot of stuff working right now, and I need some opinions right then. So don't
Well,
give.
I mean, my thing, here's a discussion, my thing is we talk about having work sessions all the time, but they never happen because everybody says they can't ever get here. Well, anytime I come to a council meeting, mostly everybody is here 30 minutes prior to the meeting, which to me was a great time for us to go ahead and have it 30 minutes before, and it wasn't conflicting with anybody's schedule. Derek was the only one that said he might have a problem getting here by 6:30. So for convenience reasons, and because we were already all here, and so was the audience, if they wanted to participate, it made sense. That's why I suggested that. We have had a lot going on that we haven't been able to discuss together as a group, and I felt like if we can all get together as a group so we can talk about things, then we can function better as a council for the town. That was where my thoughts were coming from, not because I'm running for mayor.
Yeah, I can see your point, and I can see both sides of it. But let's work out something that will work for all of us. And I don't mean talk about it, I mean, within the next week or so, we'll come up with something that works. If it's nothing but having a meeting once a month, once a quarter, and then as needed, something. We'll work it out, get with this office, everybody that has an opinion, and let's see if we can't make it happen.
And I didn't have time to read over Briarwoods because my mother is critically sick and almost dead.
I got no problem with that, you just don't vote no if you don't understand something.
I
You
wasn't voting
abstain.
no because I didn't understand. I did not have a time to
Then-
review the documents.
Then we need to
That was
change
all
the
that was
minutes of
there.
the meeting because
And I
it said
think
you
y'all
voted
know
no.
that I have been very busy with my mother since March over
We
this.
understand, and we're not simply are with you, but what point he's making, if you hadn't had time to look over something, simply abstain rather than voting no, because you might be voting on something that you really want, and it would change the whole course of
Well,
events.
and I voted different tonight. I knew I had a second chance. That's why I wanted the next 2 weeks to be able to review up and look at that. So I could make an informed decision.
Great. Work session discussion, we're gonna start with public comments, and we'll start over here. Ma'am?
And every time she said no last meeting, she explained that she had not read this stuff.
Right, I understand.
Me? Yeah, I've presented some things on by public comment or on the agenda for the last 2 or 3 meetings. And the first one way back, about 3 meetings ago, you promised to get with me, respond to the next meeting. And you did that cash management procedure handout. And then it was decided you would discuss it at the next meeting. That meeting you weren't here. How do you get a response publicly to public comments or to anything you address on the agenda? At this point, most everything's been just like gone into the cloud, I guess? Do you understand what I'm saying? No comment?
No. That-
Just like always.
But you have a comment, just make the comment and say, hey, I want such and such, and see if we can make it happen. What are you needing right now?
I needed the answer to why our audit has got so many deficiencies listed in it. I went into great detail, and it's a copy, I gave Donna a copy of everything I said. There were 4 or 5 areas in which the audit listed things that were incorrectly listed by the town. That needs addressing, whether they made a mistake or whether I don't know what happened. That's what I was asking. Why are there all these errors in the audit or the deficiencies?
I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll let Donna research it and come up with a meeting, and it will be on the agenda next meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you also asked about the cash management expenditures.
Yeah, that was on
Whatever,
the,
page 3 and page 1 at the last meeting.
Donna has a copy of everything I said, because I handed her, emailed her a copy of everything that I was concerned about. And it's listed 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with the references to the audit. So it'd be really easy to understand.
Good. We will address.
Thank you. And I appreciate you weren't here but no, I said that wrong. I understand that you weren't here last time, so you could not address it, but I would appreciate it next time.
Good. Thank you. Mr. Bridges.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. I mean, I think I had the same kind of discussion about the different things we were originally talking about, strong mayor and spending, so that would be good to clear that up, because I don't think it ever really has been cleared up. It's just been put off, so that would be nice to get that. The other thing, have you guys ever heard of the millage rate rollback with what you researched on the tax stuff, Keith? And that goes to the mayor or the council in general. That's the way I understand. That's part of the, I don't know if in this case, if that's why the millage rate went down, but according to Georgia law, you're supposed to be rolling back the tax millage rate, and actually it's supposed to be reduced a certain degree. And if you look on the county portion, it is every year. They do have a
That's what it
reduction.
did here, it rolled back.
Sir?
It did, that's what we've just voted on, it did roll back.
But it hadn't in your 5-year digest, it clearly shows it is not, that you put in the paper. So that's, going forward, and like he said, it's not, the rollback is to reduce the burden on the taxpayers, not to do anything for the city as far as maintain, you know, you roll back the millage rate, but you didn't, the millage rate doesn't mean anything to the average taxpayers, how much money we're pulling out of our pocket and putting in the city's hands for safekeeping and doing the good and the will of the people in general. And that's where, you know, I think that needs to be looked at a little bit harder, because that's the real purpose behind the whole millage rate discussion.
Right. We'll look at that. Thank you for your suggestion. Anything else, Joe?
That's it.
Sir, you have any comments, please?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I'm allowed to speak as
Oh, by all means, you're public.
non-resident, the rollback of the millage rate is happening in Newnan this time exactly like Joe described it, so that they can have the same budget of income that they had the previous year. During the 6-year downturn in the economy, no one was able to roll back millage rates because home values went lower and lower each time they had to assess them, so it was very difficult to do that. You won't find a lot of rollbacks in anybody's books from major cities to minor townships because of that reason. They couldn't roll back the millage rate and have a decrease in property values, or you'd have no money to accomplish the responsibilities of the town. But you're correct, in relatively good times, there should be a rollback to keep the budget level the same, and that benefits each taxpayer when there is a rollback. Newnan just announced theirs for the purpose of keeping their budget exactly level with last year's. Their property, the number of homes, the number of people, and the values went up, so they were able to do that.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Did that help those that had questions? Okay. Moving on, no other public is here. Whole of council, has anyone come to you with any problems or concerns that we need to look into as council?
They have.
Not?
I had a resident complain about the bus on Williams Circle, the school bus.
What was the bus right there at the corner of?
It's not coming around?
No, it's parked there. I think the lady drives it every day. It's just parked there.
Okay, across the street from 100, right there on the corner.
Yes, yeah. And I don't know if that's in our ordinances for it not to be there or not. I know that there was an issue with the RV that was parked across the street from that.
Right. A little bit of difference, but I can see the point, and we'll look and see, but depends on where the council wants to push it, I guess.
Well, I mean, I told them I would get back with them, so I guess I can check if it's something that, I don't know what you mean by council pushing it. I mean, do we have ordinances against that not or being, or, I mean, I'd like for it to kind of be clear, not.
Right, we'll look into it and definitely get an answer, yes or no, black or white.
Okay, Donna, could you just call me, I guess, when y'all talk? Sure. And then I can communicate to the resident. And I just wanted to thank Eric for bringing donuts and coffee tonight. Thank you.
I don't have anything.
Closed comments? Mayor's minutes, I will just simply apologize for not being here. It was necessity. I think you all know that. One meeting out of 11 years can't say bad. But anyway, nothing else to come before council. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
Make a motion.
So moved.